Good afternoon, Muskegon. Hi, this is Gregory T. Roberts. Your show. This is your show. Turn into show news, information, and more. And that's what we try to do is provide you all the above. Thank you for listening. And the people that are watching on Facebook, be able to submit your questions. If you would like to submit questions to our guest today, you could do it on our Facebook outlets, media outlets 103.7 The Beat WVS or M106 Rock and Soul. Let me get into the weather, and then I have a few things. Oh, just to let you know, for this will be the last week that you'll be able to watch this on my pages. We're going to only watch them on WVS and M106. That way, if you have questions, your questions are not all over the place. So we want to make that very, very clear. The weather forecast for today, it is Friday. It's a high of 75. It's a nice day. Low of 64. Saturday, sunny. High of 79. Low of 55. Sunday, partly cloudy. High of 75. Low of 61. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all sunny. Monday, high of 77, low of 55. Tuesday, high of 79, low of 57. Wednesday, high of 82, low of 63. Thank you. I want to thank Lady J, the producer, and I want to thank PA and Big Rob and Q, all the people that are helping with the show. Hey, the Torn in Two hats are in, whether you blue or red, we got them. So let me know if you need them, and we'll make sure we get them. Now let's break some glass and get ready to smoke and find out some truth. The primary election is coming up this Tuesday. And let me make an announcement on that. The radio station is always, for every election, turned off the music to inform you, to entice you, to nudge you to get you to the polls. And what we find out is every time is that as hard as we work, it's really up to you. It's really up to you to get to the polls. There's too many important things that need to be decided. And just yesterday, the day before, somebody shot on 31. So, do you want to stay home, or do you want to be a part of the problem and be the solution by getting involved in the system? Anyway, the election is August 3rd. Now, there's no primary in Muskegon Heights. That's why you have not heard us talk about any candidates. We will be talking about those candidates, to those candidates after this. Also, before I go and introduce our guests, I want to say today, being July 30th, coming up in a couple weeks, the 21st of August, 2021 will be 1 year of this program being on live every week. And I have to thank all the people that have been on and that has helped us. Now, with that said, the primary is Tuesday. We're just going to play music and pray that you vote. Well, thank you. We have some Facebook users. Afternoon, everyone, and congratulations. We're going to pray that you vote, that you get out there and do your responsibility. But this is also a radio station. Although we are here to inform everybody, we're going to try something. We're going to try to play the music and see if you get to the polls. There are 5 people running for 2 slots. The ballot couldn't be any simpler. If I would take out this ballot here, It has nothing but 5 names on it. Now, 5 names, and you've heard from one of the candidates, John Jack Page. Today, you will hear from another. Now, I want to make this clear. Dan was on PA and Big Rob show, so you heard from 2 there. I want to make this very clear. We sent out invitations and invites to everyone, and the people who responded, that's who got the slots. Last thing, people, the COVID is not over. This variant is serious. So you take it serious. With that said, our guest today is Rebecca St. Clair. Rebecca St. Clair is a social worker, a clinical supervisor for Health West. She has lived in Muskegon for 19 years and is the wife of Kwame James and the mother of 2 adult children that graduated from Muskegon. Yay! Big Reds for life. Um, as like I said, Fred Hammond would say, put your hands together for Rebecca St. Clair. Welcome to our show. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
We have a lot to discuss in a short time to get there, so I have to get right to those questions. You sent out your information. Your information, like I said, came to my house yesterday. What made you decide to run?
I was actually approached in April, and a friend asked me if I would consider it. I immediately laughed and said, no way, because I'm not a politician. It's not something that I've ever thought about. I have friends who are and who have run for office, and I've helped them, and I've been super proud of them, but that's just not anything that I ever thought that I wanted to do. But after my immediate no response, I agreed that I would go home and think about it a little more. And as I was sitting with myself, I realized the only reason why I was saying no was that I was afraid to do it. It's a big risk, and it's really putting myself out there in a way that is really uncomfortable. But I could think of a lot of reasons why I should do it. And being afraid was the only reason why I shouldn't do it. Was not, that wasn't going to be a good answer for me. So I decided that I would go ahead and give it a shot.
Now, as we were talking before the show, you decided to give it a shot, but your husband as well did the same thing. And talk a little bit about that experience.
Actually, it's funny, similar situation. And now that I think of it, the same friend asked him to run for school board as asked me to run for city commissioner. I hadn't thought of that. We have both been pretty involved in the community and big supporters of the school system. And a friend reached out and asked him, hey, what do you think about running? And his same response, he was like, I don't know if that's for me. And when he mentioned it to me, I'm like, oh, absolutely. Yes, you should run, like 100%. Who better? But even with that, I still hadn't really thought, well, I think I'm going to run too. It was just like, yes, I will be a good supportive partner. And, I think he's really good for the school district. And, but I hadn't, I kind of joked with you before about like, we're trying to be a political dynasty, but we're really not. We're just regular folks who care a lot.
With that said, what are the issues that you feel that you can bring to the table for the commission?
Sure. So I as I said, I've been a long time observer of Muskegon politics, and I've lived in the city almost 20 years now, but I actually grew up in Oceana County.
Mhm.
So Muskegon was the closest city.
We might have lost her. We hopefully we'll get her back. She is rebooting as we speak. If you're listening or watching, we're talking to Rebecca St. Clair, candidate.
On my back.
So the election is coming up. It's coming up Tuesday, and there are 5 people running. The ballot. Matter of fact, let me show you the ballot. Oh, okay. So we have her on. We have her back. Oh, you're back on.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I just wasn't there anymore. So
Yeah, that's the technology. Okay, go ahead. So we were talking about what do you um, add to the table?
sure. So some basic things. I'm a social worker, and I see things a little differently than other folks do. I work with community mental health, or Health West. So I work with people who are really high needs and low support, which gives me a different perspective of what the government can and should do for people.
Okay.
I'm a woman who's running for a seat on a council that has not had more than 2 women on it at the same time in recent memory, maybe ever.
Joan Benedict and Sally Plyming was probably the last 2.
Yeah.
Well, Clara Shepard and Blanche
Yeah.
Smith.
Yeah. And then also Leah Markowski overlapped with, I think, Clara Shepard for a second too.
Mhm.
But, we're 50% of the population and certainly not 50% of government. So, but I've also had a lot of concerns with how accessible the government is
Mhm.
to people who aren't in positions of power, and how transparent decisions are made or not made.
Mhm.
And that was a real impetus for me to go ahead and run.
So you say transparency is one of the top
Mm-hmm.
reasons why you decide to run.
Yes.
Okay, being working with mental health, I want to get right down to this issue. You hear so much of talking about our police is overworked. And let me make this clear that I am in no way, or form, or fashion, or picking on the police.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make that perfectly clear. We have guys that work extremely hard to provide a safe place. We will always need police in a form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what I'm trying to say is, and Rebecca being a social worker, is that there are some times that we're asking our police officers to do too much.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times when they need a social worker, a psychologist, to run on a call to help something, to escalate, just bring the temperature down. What is your feelings about policing and um, how we can use them more efficiently?
So I think it's a different skill set. I think if your house is on fire, you don't call the police. You call the fire department. And if you are having a heart attack, you also don't call the police. You call the paramedics. So somehow when people are having mental health emergencies, we call the police, who are no more equipped to deal with a mental health crisis than they are a fire.
Mm-hmm.
It's not their skill set. And, I am not anti-police, but we are asking them to take on roles that are not meant for them. They're not equipped to do. They're not, it's not what they're there for. So, in a perfect world, I would envision a system where when you call 911 and they ask, what's your emergency, they would dispatch mental health staff rather than the police if it's a mental health emergency, just like they send the fire department if your house is burning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we get that. I know other cities and other states are building those programs, but at minimum, equipping the police with more skills to de-escalate situations is really important, and Health West is taking on an active role in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, that's not a perfect fix.
Okay, okay. With the police, the fire, the city hall, you come from an interracial marriage. Do you feel that city staff look like your demographics?
No, and honestly, I meant to crunch the numbers right quick to see if the city does work out to be similar to Muskegon population, and those numbers aren't real findable. So I don't know if the city looks like me, but I can tell you, or they look like my husband, right? But I can tell you that Muskegon is better than some communities, but I think there's still a lot of work to do. I think that folks who are in charge are still mostly white.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of rank and file people, and there are some, there are some directors level and some management level, and that's awesome and valid, but it's still not equity.
How important is it that the city staff, police, fire, DPW, you name it, look like their community?
I think it's incredibly important. I think it's incredibly important for any helping service, which I believe city government is a helping service, which sets me aside from some folks too. I think it's really important that you find a population that looks like the community you serve, because the needs are different. If you are a white, cisgender, heterosexual male, you're going to have very different needs than, say, a trans Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty extreme example, but the things that affect me as a white woman are really different than the things that affect my husband as a Black man or my children.
Mm-hmm.
And I am constantly checking myself to undo unconscious bias and undo accidental racism. And, these are the people that I love the most in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have these things in my head from my childhood that pop up every once in a while. And I am actively striving to be aware of that. So folks that aren't trying to be mindful are doing a lot of harm, and they don't even know it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That the report on finances just came out for the candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't get a chance to ask the other candidates this, but the report just came out. So you get to explain who are the people that are representing you and backing you with the dollars.
Sure. So I'm really proud of my campaign finance report. It is the people in this community who are backing me with the dollars and the support. I have a couple of, I think my largest donor is $500, and she's a local doctor who works, with really high needs individuals, and is the physician in the jail. Mm-hmm. So I don't, I have one, I think it's a $200 donation from some friends who used to be local and they moved to New York State, but they still support me. Um,
Now, did you get the support from the Democrat Party? 4,000.
I got the Democrat Party does not endorse nonpartisan races, but I
Okay.
did get an endorsement from the Progressive Democratic Women's Caucus, which is
Mm.
a local PAC.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And
And
that was actually an open thing that any of the other candidates could have applied for. I don't know that anyone did.
right. Looking at basically looking at your financial report where like 20, 25 down the road.
Yeah.
So far, how much have you raised and spent on the election?
I should know that. Somewhere in the ballpark of, sorry.
I think it's like 6,000 plus.
Yeah, and it looks like more than it is because there was a lot of in-kind donation, which isn't dollars, it's goods or services. We had a really nice fundraiser that netted me quite a bit of money, but it also there was a service auction. So those were in-kind donations that didn't actually come to me. Somebody bid on it and bought it, and I got the money from the auction, but you still count the in-kind donations. So I have, I think, almost $2,000 in in-kind donations.
Okay.
And we're spending as much as we get. We've been pretty frugal where we can, but mailers and things are expensive.
I will tell you've been frugal, but I saw something that no other candidate had. I saw one of your signs in Northern Shores.
Yeah.
So you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So now I got to switch my hats. I got to switch the colors here.
Okay.
Okay. So now that we had the blue for police, red for fire. Your fire department used to be the finest fire department in the city of Muskegon. The average wage right now for a starting firefighter is $11 an hour. We're using and borrowing trucks from other people. What is your response?
That is abysmal and completely unacceptable. You cannot ask firefighters to risk their lives for $11 an hour. It is, that is mind-boggling to me. You can go work at McDonald's right now for $15 an hour. And I'm not dissing McDonald's. That's hard work too. But they're not equivalent. And we don't have adequate fire services pretty much at any given time. If there is more than one fire, they have to call for mutual assistance.
Right.
And I'm not dissing mutual assistance. That's a great system, but we rely on mutual assistance because we don't have adequate fire service. And that's not what that's meant to do.
When I was in the fire department, we had like 45, 46 individuals. They're down to like 23, 22, 23, running 6 on a shift, 2 downtown, 2 on Marquette, and 2 on Lakeshore Drive, for a city as big and diverse with lakes in Muskegon Lake and Lake Michigan and stuff like that. Talk about having 6 people on a shift running that.
That feels wildly unsafe to me. And having never been a firefighter, I can only imagine. But I do know I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people lately, and some of them have been firefighters. And they were talking about how they will come to a fire and they can't respond because there isn't enough manpower there. So they will be out in front of a burning house.
Can't go in.
They cannot go in because they have to wait for more help.
Right.
That might be coming from Eggleston or from Muskegon Heights, or and that's not benefiting anybody in this community. Like, there's not enough dollars in the world that you can save off of a budget to make that make sense.
Okay. I want to talk to you about to keep this fair, some of the questions that I asked all the other candidates. All right.
Mhm.
The beach, charging at the beach, was a something that the council decided to do. They found out that it made a lot of money,
Mhm.
and so what did they decide to do? The next year, they decided to raise the rates. Uh, how do you feel about that?
You know, I'm of two minds about that. I'm glad that it's free for Muskegon citizens. And I'm glad that there is some accessibility for some folks in the Heights. Um, I don't know that there was a good answer for that. It is a really expensive resource,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I think that there is some sense in charging for the parking. Um, but I will tell you that I lost my beach passes when they came. Like
Same thing.
they came in the mail. I put them somewhere, and then maybe my husband put them someplace else,
Same thing.
and we haven't found them yet. So you know what? I haven't been to the beach this year because
And
I can't find them, and I haven't gone down to buy another pass.
and here's their response. Their response is, I just went through this
Mhm.
week. Is that I remember opening the packet and getting one
Mhm.
pass.
Mhm.
I put it somewhere. I lost it. And so I was down at City Hall. I went to the police department to get another pass, and they said, sorry, first of all, it looks on the computer that we sent you to. And as of April, if you lost it, tough luck, you have to buy another one.
Mhm.
And I said, I refuse to buy it. Me as a citizen, tax-paying
Mhm.
individual, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. Why should I pay again?
Right.
I know it's
Yeah.
my fault for losing it, but if I
Sure.
can show my ID and it's not like I gave it to somebody else.
Mhm.
I lost it. My fault. I'm not paying the $20, and I live around the corner, and I
Yeah.
won't go. I'm not going. So the same thing happened to you.
It's someplace in my house, or maybe one of my kids took them. I don't know, but yeah, I don't have a beach pass this year, and I, if this year is a different sort of year, and I'm spending every second of free time doing things like this and campaigning, so I wouldn't be spending a lot of time at the beach anyway, but I would have been down there some.
Okay.
Um,
I want to talk about a mistake that happened with the council and the city manager.
mhm.
The city manager and the council, their intent was to help businesses by buying gift cards.
Yes.
Now, the intent was good, uh, but it didn't happen a fair way. There's no easy way. Now,
Mhm.
when I had the mayor on, the mayor said this is that the lesson that he learned from the is that you should not conduct business through email. That was one of the things that he learned.
Mhm.
And he did say that there was an audit that was held. Now, I'm not sure that that audit was a out of house audit or in house audit. Oh, you're shaking your head.
It
Okay,
was
so
an internal
it
audit.
was an internal
So they
audit.
looked at their own books.
So they looked at their own books.
Mhm.
Talk about that scenario.
Sure. So I was listening to the mayor, and I wondered when he said that it was an email that they had that you shouldn't do business by email. My first thought was, well, of course not. That would be a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Open Meetings Act.
You can't do business by email because it has to be public to the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So, right off the bat, that kind of popped my head. I have a public administration master's degree also, along with my social work degree. So um, I do know some about government law. And I do know that you can't do, if you have a quorum, you can't do business
Which is four.
without a public audience.
Right, which is four.
Yes. And if you are doing business by email without a quorum, that's also not appropriate.
Correct.
Um, So that, that didn't feel like an adequate answer to me. I understand that things were very urgent at the beginning of COVID, and people made um, rushed decisions. But I also know that looking at the list of people and businesses who benefited from that gift card purchase, there were almost no women business owners on there, and there were almost no minorities. And I don't know why the businesses that were chosen were chosen. I think some of it was just proximity. If you look at it, you'll notice that the vast majority of them were in the downtown area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why we didn't think about the other business corridors, because that is certainly not the only place that people suffered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then when there was the opportunity to be very transparent and say, yes, we have spent, a very large amount of money in a way that looks improper. If nothing else, the appearance of impropriety is enough to raise flags. And it was brought up at the commission meeting by one of the commissioners. We need to do an external audit, because at the same time it became clear that the birthday celebration had also ran over by several $100,000. So between the two things, you're looking at about $500,000 that was spent without necessarily going through the proper channels.
Hold on, excuse me. That birthday celebration ran over about what?
I don't want to lie to you on numbers, and I don't have them in front of me, but somewhere in the ballpark of $150,000 or $250,000. The total of the gift cards and the birthday party was close to $500,000.
Is it true that some of that money was supposed to go to buy a fire truck?
I think their intent was to government moves money around, like you beg from Peter to pay Paul all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that was probably like, hey, we're just going to pull this out and we have this other money coming in. I don't think that they meant to not buy a fire truck. But I don't know. I wasn't at the table, but I do know that there was a large amount of money that was spent over, a period of about a year. And when it was put to the commission that we need to have an outside audit, all of the commissioners but two voted no. So there was no outside audit. So now, this time later, we're looking at it and saying, yeah, we're good. We did an internal audit. And maybe, and I'm not trying to say that anybody lined their pockets with that. I don't think that's what happened, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. I do know that we were not transparent with any of that.
Now, you use that word transparent again. What's another issue where you feel that the city wasn't transparent?
Last summer, the farmers market closed for about a day. I don't know if you were aware of that. The market vendors were there, but the market services were closed. So there were no bathrooms and there was no staff, which meant that people that came down to buy food there's a double up food bucks program where you can come with your bridge card, and for every $1 on your bridge card, you can get $2 worth of tokens to buy fresh produce and fresh food. Mm-hmm. So that day, with almost no warning, the city staff closed the market, and the vendors were there anyway. So people came down and were not able to access food in the middle of a food desert, in the middle of a global pandemic. And when that was brought up at a 7:00 in the morning in-person meeting that was called as an emergency, a couple of days after, there was no clarity as to why the market was closed. The the response was that that the market was over budget,
Mm-hmm.
and that there wasn't money allocated. And because there had been trouble, because this was right after the gift card thing was broke, because there was trouble, that they were not going to spend any money without explicit permission from the commissioners. But it turned out that that was not actually true. It was the beginning of the fiscal year, and it was fully funded, but there was also no efforts to bring the commission together to do an emergency move of money if necessary. The answer was just, let's just close the market down, and then not be transparent about why we did it.
Wow. Okay. You got some fans out there. Hello, Rebecca. This is from Jack Page. He says, if you're not if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And Richards. How do you feel about that statement?
I love that. Actually, I shared that on my commission Facebook page a couple of weeks ago, because it's exactly right. The power consolidates. And if you are not where the power is, then you need to be represented by someone who is where the power is. And that is my intent, to be the person at the table thinking of the people who live here,
Mm-hmm.
and the people with great need.
Okay. Rebecca, as a social worker, but give me, as a social worker, as a woman, as a follower, give me your strong suits. What are some of your strong suits?
Sure. So, as a trained therapist, I'm a really good listener. I have discovered in this campaign process that it's not really much different than the work that I do from day to day. I'm a supervisor of a team that works with really high risk, low supports youth.
Mm-hmm.
And as a supervisor, it is me that people call when they're mad about something.
Mm-hmm.
So I, get my ears scorched on the phone by angry people and angry parents. And a large part of my role is to validate what they're feeling and try to get answers for them. And sometimes there is no good answer, because when people are ill, bad things happen. And sometimes we can't do everything that needs to be done because of a million different reasons. But I have found, if I listen and I offer empathy and I try to help them find resolution, even if they don't get the answer that they wanted, they feel heard and they feel better about the interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think government is a lot like that. I've had people tell me, oh, I want a private beach in Nim's neighborhood, and we need to this and we need to that. And I don't know, that I can do a quarter of the things that people are asking for, but they come away from that interaction feeling heard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a good answer. What would you say is one of your weaknesses, and then we'll go to our next questions.
Well, I'm not an extrovert. So doing stuff like this is really hard, and I have to psych myself up every time I do it. So that is something that I've discovered, that this does not come easy to me, and I think it's always going to be a challenge.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire.
Yeah.
I did that with Paige, and
Mm-hmm.
I did that with the mayor. That you will work on that issue to fight and change that.
Here I am, right?
Oh,
I'm doing it.
You're right. Okay.
I
Now,
tell myself every day I can do hard things.
that's good. I
So
want to talk to you about, you talked about youth. The city has kind of taken the responsibility of our youth and given it to big brothers, big sisters, and other entities, and gotten out of that. We used to have a great department that would do to make sure that our youth are busy.
Mhm.
How important do you feel having that kind of department is for the city?
I moved here after the rec services was largely being dismantled. So I can't speak from experience with that, but I can tell you that the resources that the city is putting into youth is reaching a fraction of the youth that need to be reached and not reaching the youth that would really benefit the most. And I don't know that building up another leisure services department is going to do it, because I'm not sure, I'm not sure how much of what we need is more fun. That's important, but I,
But would you agree that that something has to happen
absolutely.
to get our youth busy?
Yes. And I think we have a perfect opportunity right now with these ARPA dollars. We have this $22 million. And one of the things that I did not see on the survey was doing something for the teenagers that need help getting gainfully employed. I think a lot of the gang violence in our community stems from a lot of things, but some of it is like not making it through school for a lot of reasons, and then not being able to be gainfully employed. I used to work at the juvenile detention center, and when it was out in Whitehall. And I remember talking to youth that were, 15, 16 years old that had 3, 4 felony charges. And what are you going to do with the rest of your life when you are 16 years old and you have 3 felonies? And that was not uncommon. You can't live in public housing. You can't get financial aid. You can't get a job that requires a license or a background check. What are we doing for those kids? We have a very overworked public defender system, and we have a very vigorous criminal justice system. And a lot of kids get caught in this machine, and their lives are ruined by the time they're 17 because they have pled to these charges, and you can only get one expunged. It's not uncommon for somebody to pick up multiple charges for one incident.
Would it be fair to say if we caught them early and get them involved early in other activities, maybe we can stop some of these lawful activities?
Yeah, maybe. But in the meantime, we have this whole population that we didn't catch in time that are currently going around shooting each other.
Right. Now, I want to talk to you about issue that we talked about with the mayor, and we talked about housing. That Muskegon is booming as far as building houses, and that the mayor said about they are in the process of 1,000 homes for low income, but I believe the rate for those low incomes to buy those homes about $1,200 a month.
Yeah, that's what I've seen for the rentals. It's in between $1,200 and $1,500 a month. That's double my mortgage. It's not a lie to call that low income, because on some scale somewhere that is considered, moderate or low income housing. But in Muskegon, where our poverty rate is so high, and I think our median income is like $28,000. It's absolutely not possible. That is not housing for poor folks.
Now, I believe now I'm trying to understand this, that they took how they came up with that dollar figure was they took, instead of taking the people of City of Muskegon and figured out the average income, they took people out of the whole county and used that income and said, okay, that's our base right there, $1,200, and that's what we're going to use to charge people for low rental homes or rental. Is that correct?
That's what I've heard. I don't like, I wasn't at the table. I don't know where they came up with those numbers. I think some of it might have been that, and I think some of it might be this is how much we need to charge in rent for the developer to make a profit, or for them to pay their mortgage. I don't know. I don't know where they came up with those numbers, but I have also heard that it was the whole county. They looked at income rate, and the City of Muskegon is not equivalent to North Muskegon, is not equivalent to Norton Shores.
Okay, Rebecca St. Clair's on that commission. She has a seat at the table. What are some of the things that you feel that we need to address?
I think that we need to get into the neighborhoods as a city more. One of the things that I have been doing is going to all of the neighborhood association meetings, because I want to see what people are, what they're talking about and where the problems are. And I have heard.
Now, Rebecca, let me stop you right there.
Sure.
Is it true that the neighborhood associating meetings and the candidate forums and all that kind of stuff, that they're all were invited, but not everybody's been showing up?
Yeah, that's correct. But there were candidate forums that I've shown up everywhere that anyone has asked me to go. I have gone. Some candidates come, some don't. But for neighborhood association meetings, anyone can go. It's not even a forum. I'm just going to listen.
Mm-hmm. What do you say? What do you say? And this is a question that I asked to everyone. What do you say to the people that say politicians are no good? The only thing that you have when it comes down to politics, they come and see us every 4 years or 2 years or whatever. Then you don't see them again until it's election time.
Right.
How will you be different than people that think that?
Well, lucky for them and for me, I'm not a politician. So I have been showing up, as a social worker. Part of my obligation is to be a volunteer and to be available and to be out there. I, on my literature, I have a list of things that I have been involved with, and I'm getting a lot of support because people know me and they know I show up. And when there's work to be done, I will be there, whether I win or not, because that's who I have always been, and that won't change.
What are you said there's a list of items that you would like to work on. How can people get and take a look, get access to look at that information?
Sure. So you can find my website at stclairforcommissioner.com. There's information on there. There's also links to my Facebook page that has a lot of content. There's been several interviews, and I'm linking each of those to my Facebook page. Muskegon Citizens for a Strong Community did an interview with me where we detailed a lot of things. The Chronicle did a candidate questionnaire that has a lot of information on it, or you can reach out to me directly. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody who has questions.
Is there anything important that I missed that we should address that you want people to hear about Rebecca St. Clair?
I think that what I want people to know is that if I can do this, anyone can. I was I never thought that I would be in this position. And, I think that informed government requires informed voters. So please vote. If you don't vote for me, that's okay. Our voting rate in Muskegon is not good. And we get what we pay for. So if you don't go to the polls on Tuesday, then somebody else is going to make your decision for you. I would love to have your support, but I just want you to show up.
You staying home is voting for the other candidate.
Absolutely.
Rebecca St. Clair, we wish you luck Tuesday.
Yes.
If you folks, if there's any information that you need to see, please see this candidate. I've been to some of the sites and stuff. The information is there. We're going to hold your feet to the fire because you play like you're shy, but I bet if somebody messed with one of your family members, it would. Yeah, I see the look on your face. It would be trouble. So I think we got a person that will represent.
I'm scrappy.
You're scrappy. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, take care. That's Rebecca St. Clair, running for the city seat, city at large, the commission seat. Listen, people, let me say this. For the current mayor to who's people running against him, to the 5 candidates that are running for the 2 seats, to the people 8, I believe, that are running in the Heights, to anyone that has ever ran or served on any kind of commission, it's tough. It's hard. It's getting harder by the lack of the death of common sense, where people don't want to listen because you got a red hat on, you got a blue hat on, you represent one party, you represent another party, and nothing is getting done. And we have to stop that. We have got to bring people back together to get something. Now, I want to spend the last couple minutes talking about an issue that affected me yesterday. A very close friend of mine, I'm not going to mention the name and stuff like that, passed away. And that happens in life. But what made this relationship very special was he didn't look like me. We weren't the same color. We met at a church function, and I knew instantly him and I were going to be friends. Now, with that said, we talked. We had difficult conversations. It was election year. He wore a red hat, and I wore a hat that I just wanted something done. But I wasn't necessarily for the red hats because I'm not crazy about what's happening in either party right now. Needless to say, we had tough conversations. The definition of a friend is there in good times and bad times. And we would have conversations where we would talk and he would ask me the tough questions about, Greg, how about this? What's going on in your life? And I would do the same. And last week, we were having the same kind of conversation, checking on each other, talking to each other about how life was. I bring this up, Muskegon, because that very thing is not happening in Muskegon. What you're hearing about is a lot of fear or a lot of anger or a lot of disappointment, but you don't hear a lot about conversation or coming to the table and talking to each other or people getting to know each other. I'm blessed that I grew up in a family that said, you judge people by their content or their character and not their color. And so we developed a friendship very short. And I ended up getting to meet somebody that I consider to be a dear friend. And I see Muskegon, I'm going to tell you right now, and it happens on both sides. And I get it on both sides. I get racism, black on black. I get it white on black. I get it rich on poor. I get it. You get it. It's out there. And Facebook, it's easy to sit back and take a cocktail and type and talk trash against somebody. But you know what? We're missing out on friendships. We're missing out on relationships. We're missing out on meeting people, because at the end of the day, we had the same things in common. We wanted great things for our kids. We wanted our wives to have whatever they wanted to have. To have a great life. We wanted to live in a safe neighborhood, and we wanted crime down. We wanted to live in a country that we could be proud of, and we wanted it. We were against legislators that didn't get things done. We were for churches stepping up to the plate. And we were for neighbors, being your neighbor's keeper, and all that kind of stuff. And we had all that in common. But if we would have stopped the conversation because one person was white and one person was black, we would have missed out on the opportunity. So, Muskegon, I come to you and I question you and I talk to you, and right now we have people that won't talk to people because they're Democrats, and won't talk to people because they're Republicans, and and it goes on and on and on. In the meantime, we have people being shot on 31, and we have all this crime going on. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that a drug problem or poor neighborhood problem is just not their issue. It is everybody's issue. Well, I don't live there. Well, guess what? Well, I don't take drugs, or I'm not in a gang. Well, wait, okay, you're not in a gang, but do you take drugs? Anyway, you are your brother's keeper. You are your neighbor's keeper. So let's do something about it. My comment is this: people, don't miss out on a relationship because you're looking at somebody's skin color. Because the one thing that you might miss is a very good friend. I lost a good friend yesterday, and I will miss him. But we took the opportunity to trust, to love each other, and Muskegon, get out there and do the same. This is Greg Roberts. This is Torn in Two. You guys go out there and meet somebody different and talk and help somebody. This is Torn in Two. I'll see you next week. Take care, and God bless.
The wait is over. The all-new Umoja Radio Network.